requires you to admit that maybe the reason you're not where you want to be has nothing to do with lack of opportunity or bad luck or the economy or your circumstances. Maybe the reason you're stuck is because you're hanging around people who are also stuck. And misery loves company. Mediocrity loves company. People who aren't doing anything with their lives love to surround themselves with other people who aren't doing anything because it makes them feel normal. It makes them feel justified. It gives them permission to stay exactly where they are. But you don't want permission to stay where you are. You want to get out. You want to build something. You want to become someone. And that means you have to make a choice that most people are too weak to make. You have to cut people off. You have to distance yourself. You have to disappear from social circles that are dragging you down into the mud. And this is where people get emotional. This is where people start talking about loyalty and friendship and how you can't just abandon people. Watch this. If someone is actively preventing you from becoming who you're supposed to be, they are not your friend. If someone mocks your ambition, they are not your friend. If someone makes you feel guilty for wanting more, they are not your friend. They are a weight. They are an anchor. And you cannot swim to the surface with an anchor tied to your leg. Every single person you allow into your inner circle is either adding to your life or subtracting from it. There is no neutral. There is no Switzerland when it comes to relationships. People are either pushing you forward or pulling you backward. And the ones pulling you backward are usually doing it without even realizing it. They're not evil. They're not malicious. They're just comfortable. And they want you to be comfortable too because your discomfort makes them uncomfortable. When you start working out, they want to go get burgers. When you start reading, they want to watch Netflix. When you start building a business, they want to talk about how risky it is. They're not supporting you. They're protecting themselves from the mirror you're holding up to their own lack of action. So what's the price? The price is loneliness. The price is isolation. The price is being misunderstood. The price is people calling you selfish or arrogant or thinking you're too good for them now. And you know what? You might be too good for them. Not because you're better as a human being, but because you're operating on a different frequency. You're building while they're complaining. You're learning while they're scrolling. You're sacrificing while they're indulging. And that gap is only going to get wider. The further you go down the path of self-improvement, the fewer people are going to be able to keep up with you. And that's fine. That's the cost. That's what you signed up for when you decided you wanted something different. You want to know why most people never make it? It's not because they lack talent. It's not because they lack intelligence. It's because they lack the courage to walk away from people who are holding them back. They would rather be liked than be great. They would rather fit in than stand out. They would rather have shallow relationships with a bunch of average people than deep relationships with a few exceptional ones. And that's their choice. But it doesn't have to be yours. Look at your phone right now. Look at your contacts. Look at your recent calls. Look at your text messages. Who are you talking to every single day? Are they winners? Are they builders? Are they people who challenge you to be better? Or are they people who validate your excuses? Are they people who tell you it's okay to quit? Are they people who make you feel comfortable staying exactly where you are? Because if they are, you need to delete them. Not from your phone, from your life. You need to create space. You need to create a vacuum, because nature abhors a vacuum. When you remove the people who are dragging you down, you create space for people who will lift you up. But you have to make the space first. This is not about being cold. This is not about being ruthless. This is about being honest. It's about looking at your life and asking yourself if the people in it are in the middle of the fight. They're not on your side. And you have to accept that. You have to accept that the path to greatness is walked alone, at least at first. Every great person in history had to isolate themselves at some point. They had to go into the cave. They had to disappear. They had to cut off distractions and focus on the work. Michael Jordan had to outwork everyone in the gym. Kobe Bryant had to wake up at 4 in the morning while everyone else was sleeping. David Goggins had to run alone in the dark. They didn't become great by hanging out with average people. They became great by removing themselves from average environments and surrounding themselves with greatness. Or when greatness wasn't available, they surrounded themselves with solitude. Because solitude is better than bad company. Loneliness is better than being around people who kill your dreams. And you're going to feel that loneliness. You're going to feel that isolation. There are going to be nights where you're working and everyone else is out having fun. There are going to be weekends where you're grinding and everyone else is at parties. There are going to be moments where you question if it's worth it, where you wonder if you should just give up and go back to being normal. And this is the moment that separates people who make it from people who don't. This is the moment where you decide if you're serious or if you were just talking. Because being serious means being willing to pay the price. And the price is everything. The price is your comfort. The price is your social life. The price is your reputation. The price is being misunderstood. The price is being called crazy. The price is losing people you thought would be there forever. The price is realizing that most people were never really there at all. They were just there for the version of you that made them comfortable. And the moment you started changing, the moment you started growing, the moment you started demanding more from yourself, they couldn't handle it. Because your growth reminds them of their stagnation. Your discipline reminds them of their laziness. Your ambition reminds them of their settling. And instead of rising up to meet you, they try to pull you back down. And you have to be strong enough to resist that pull. You have to be strong enough to say no when everyone else is saying yes. You have to be strong enough to stay in when everyone else is going out. You have to be strong enough to work when everyone else is resting. You have to be strong enough to invest when everyone else is spending. You have to be strong enough to build when everyone else is consuming. And most people don't have that strength. Most people cave. Most people give in. Most people go back to the crowd because the crowd feels safe. But the crowd is where dreams go to die. The crowd is where ambition gets suffocated. The crowd is where potential gets wasted. So if you want to become someone, you have to be willing to walk away from everyone, at least for a season, at least until you build the foundation, at least until you become strong enough that other people's opinions don't matter anymore, at least until you become so focused on your mission that distractions bounce off you, at least until you become the kind of person that other ambitious people want to be around, because that's when everything changes. That's when you stop chasing relationships and relationships start chasing you. That's when you stop trying to fit in and people start trying to fit into your world. That's when you stop being average and average people stop being able to relate to you. And this is the part people don't tell you about success. Success is isolating, not because you want it to be, but because there are fewer people at the top. The higher you climb, the thinner the air gets, the fewer people can breathe up there. And you have to be okay with that. You have to be okay with the fact that most people will never understand what you're doing or why you're doing it. They'll never understand the sacrifices. They'll never understand the pain. They'll never understand the discipline. They'll just see the results and assume you got lucky. They'll see the outcome and assume it was easy. They'll see where you are and forget where you came from. But you'll know. You'll know what it cost. You'll know what you gave up. You'll know who you had to let go of. You'll know the nights you cried. You'll know the times you wanted to quit. You'll know the moments you felt completely alone. And you'll also know that it was worth it. Because on the other side of that pain is a version of yourself that you didn't even know existed. On the other side of that sacrifice is a life that most people only dream about. On the other side of that isolation is a level of freedom that makes all the loneliness irrelevant. So, the question is simple. Are you willing to pay the price? Are you willing to walk away from people who are keeping you small? Are you willing to endure the judgment? Are you willing to face the loneliness? Are you willing to become the villain in other people's stories because you refuse to play the victim in your own? Because that's what it takes. That's what it's always taken. That's what it will always take. There is no shortcut. There is no hack. There is no way to become exceptional while surrounding yourself with mediocrity. The math doesn't work. The physics doesn't work. You become who you spend time with, period. So if you spend time with complainers, you will complain. If you spend time with procrastinators, you will procrastinate. If you spend time with people who make excuses, you will make excuses. If you spend time with people who don't value their time, you will not value your time. If you spend time with people who have no ambition, you will lose your ambition. It's not a moral failing. It's not a character flaw. It's just reality. It's human nature. We adapt to our environment. We mirror the people around us. We become the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And if that average is low, you will be low, no matter how much potential you have, no matter how much talent you have, no matter how much you want it. If you're surrounded by the wrong people, you will fail. But if you surround yourself with winners, you will win. If you surround yourself with people who are obsessed with excellence, you will become obsessed with excellence. If you surround yourself with people who refuse to settle, you will refuse to settle. If you surround yourself with people who demand more from themselves, you will demand more from yourself. If you surround yourself with people who are building empires, you will build an empire, because that becomes the norm.